Hi, it's Reggie. Welcome back to Moonlight Moments, and to the third episode of this five-part series. Over these episodes, we've been moving gently through different destinations of self-love. Not places we rush to arrive at, but spaces we learn how to stand in, with honesty, patience, and care. Today's episode is an invitation to look inward with softness, to notice the ways you may have learned to edit yourself to keep things comfortable, to reflect on what it might feel like to be fully present as you are, without adjusting or performing. This moment isn't about becoming someone new. It's about letting yourself be seen, first by you. If you've ever felt the need to be agreeable, easy, or quiet to belong, this episode offers space to breathe differently. So take a breath and let's begin. Elias had always known how to read a room. It wasn't something he learned consciously. It lived in his body, the way his shoulders adjusted when someone entered his space, the way his tone shifted mid-sentence, the way he instinctively softened himself before anyone had the chance to ask. He could sense what was needed before it was spoken: calm, agreement, distance, ease. He offered those things freely, yet kept him safe. That night, as the house settled into its quiet rhythm, Elias stood alone in the hallway outside his room. The door behind him remained closed, his suitcase untouched. He hadn't felt the urge to unpack. Something inside him felt unfinished, like he'd been invited somewhere else first. The house was quiet but not asleep. A long corridor stretched ahead of him, dimly lit by sconces that cast soft reflections against the walls. As Elias took a step forward, the air shifted, cooler, clearer, almost reverent. He didn't notice the mirrors at first. Then he did. They lined the hallway from floor to ceiling, tall and narrow, framed in antique silver. At first glance, they appeared ordinary, slightly clouded with age, their surfaces imperfect. But as Elias moved closer, he realized something was wrong. His reflection lagged behind, not by much, just enough to unsettle him. He stopped walking. The reflection took one more step. Elias swallowed. "This is strange," he murmured, his voice barely audible. The reflection looked at him, not mocking, not distorted, just observant. He took another step. The hallway seemed to stretch, mirrors multiplying, their surfaces flickering with movement. Each one showed a version of him, similar but not the same. One reflected him, smiling politely, eyes tired. Another showed him mid-sentence, words caught behind careful restraint. Another showed him standing alone at the edge of a group, present but unseen. Elias felt his chest tighten. He'd worn all those versions. They weren't false, just incomplete. He moved slowly, heart steady but heavy, as the mirrors began to change. Now they showed moments, not memories exactly, but feelings. The mirror to his left reflected the weight of holding his tongue when honesty felt risky. The mirror to his right reflected the ache of being praised for being easy, understanding, low maintenance. A mirror ahead reflected him nodding when he wanted to disagree. He stopped. "I was just trying to keep the peace," he whispered. The mirrors didn't argue. They didn't accuse. They reflected. Elias placed his hand against one of the glass surfaces. It was warm, not cold as he expected. His reflection met his gaze, eyes steady, unafraid. "I didn't want to be difficult," Elias said, voice firmer now. The reflection nodded. Further down the hall, one mirror stood apart from the others. Larger, clearer, its frame simple, unadorned. Light pulled around it differently, softer, steadier. Elias approached slowly. This mirror didn't shift. It didn't delay. It didn't distort. It showed him exactly as he was. No mask, no performance, no apology, just presence. His breath caught, not because he didn't recognize himself, but because he did. The man in the mirror wasn't harsh or demanding. He wasn't asking Elias to change. He wasn't disappointed. He was calm, cool, enough. Elias felt something unfamiliar bloom in his chest. Relief. I don't need to explain myself to you, Elias said quietly. The reflection didn't respond. It didn't need to. Elias stood there for a long moment, letting the truth settle, not as something he had to earn, but something he could accept. When he finally turned away, the mirrors no longer felt heavy. They felt complete. Many of us learn early that love is conditional, not because anyone says it outright, but because we notice what gets rewarded. Agreeableness, adaptability, being easy to be around. We learn that harmony often comes from minimizing ourselves, and we mistake that for safety. So we learn to edit. We soften our opinions, we hold back our truth, we become experts at being liked, at being acceptable, at being whatever the moment requires, even when it costs us connection with ourselves. But self-love asks something different. It asks us to stop negotiating our worth. Loving the truth of who you are doesn't mean forcing honesty in every moment or being confrontational. It means allowing yourself to exist without constant self-surveillance. It means trusting that you don't need to perform to belong, especially with yourself. The Hall of Mirrors shows us something important. The versions of ourselves we represent aren't lies, they're adaptations. They were created for protection, and they deserve compassion. But they don't have to run the show forever. Self-love begins when you allow yourself to be real, even when the truth feels quieter, messier, or less polished than what you've offered before. You don't need approval to be honest. You don't need permission to be whole. This episode speaks to anyone who has ever been told they're easy, understanding, or so low maintenance, and felt a quiet ache beneath the compliment. To anyone who learned to read the room before speaking, to anyone who learned that being agreeable kept things smooth, but slowly erased their edges. Many of us were never taught how to hold our truth and our relationships at the same time. We learned one or the other, and often we chose connection, even when it meant disconnecting from ourselves. Over time, that disconnection can feel like numbness, like exhaustion, like a quiet resentment you don't want to admit you feel. Reclaiming yourself doesn't mean becoming rigid or unkind. It means becoming honest. It means letting yourself exist without translating yourself for everyone else. And that can feel terrifying at first, because authenticity risks being misunderstood. But it also invites real connection, the kind that doesn't require you to shrink. If this episode resonated with you, here are a few gentle ways to practice loving the truth of who you are without pressure or performance. 1. Notice where you edit yourself. Pay attention to moments when you soften your truth to keep things smooth. Ask gently, what would it feel like to be honest here, even quietly? 2. Practice honesty with yourself first. Before sharing your truth with others, practice acknowledging it privately. Name what you feel, write it down, let it be real somewhere. 3. Release the need to be easy. Being easy is not the same as being loved. You're allowed to have needs, opinions, and boundaries. 4. Speak one unedited truth this week. It doesn't have to be dramatic, just real. Even a sentence like, "That doesn't work for me," counts. 5. Choose self-respect over self-erasure. Every time you honor your truth, you strengthen your relationship with yourself, and that relationship matters. Take a slow breath in, let your shoulders soften. Imagine yourself standing in front of a mirror, not a critical one, not a judging one, just a clear surface reflecting you exactly as you are. Notice what it feels like to be seen without commentary. Now silently repeat, "I don't need to be palatable to be worthy. I don't need to hide to belong. I am allowed to be honest with myself." Take another breath. Let that truth settle in your body. When you're ready, open your eyes, carrying that clarity with you. As we close this episode, I want to leave you with one grounding truth. You don't have to be palatable to be worthy of love. That's the heart of today's reflection. Self-love doesn't ask you to erase parts of yourself to keep the peace. It invites you to honor your truth. Gently, honesty, without apology. Here's the key takeaway for this episode. Loving yourself means allowing your truth to exist, even when it feels quieter or less convenient for others. As this series continues, we'll keep uncovering different ways self-love shows up in our lives. But for now, let this episode remind you that being real is not a risk. It's a return. Thank you for being here with me tonight. Follow Moonlight in Moments wherever you listen, and share it with someone who might need a little light today. Until next time, and as always, love yourself better than yesterday.
I learned how to be agreeable, learn how to stay in line, learn how to read the silence before I spoke my mind. I kept the peace but disappearing, called it kindness, called it grace, but somewhere in the middle I forgot my own face. I don't need a bend to be loved, I don't need a fate to belong. There's a truth I've been holding and it's been patient all along. I don't need a mess to matter, I don't need to play it safe. I'm allowed to stand in my truth and take up honest space. If being real costs comfort, then comfort was never home. I'm choosing myself clearly, no mask required, fully known. I've been calm in every storm, I've been easy, I've been kind, but there's a voice beneath the quiet that I've left behind. So I'm letting it rise slowly, not to fight, not to prove, just to say I'm still here and my truth still moves. I don't need a